Welcome back to part 2 of the Nameless City. Let's get into where we left off. No religious theory, however, could easily explain why the level passage in that awesome desert should be as low as the temples, or lower, since one cannot even kneel in it, as I thought of the crawling creatures whose hideous mummified forms were so close to me. I felt a new throb of fear. Mental associations are curious, and I shrank from the idea that except for the poor primitive man torn to pieces in the last painting, mine was the only human form amidst the many relics and symbols of primordial life. But as always in my strange and roving existence, wonder soon drove out fear, for the luminous abyss and what it might contain presented a problem worthy of the greatest explorer. That a weird world of mystery lay far down that flight of peculiarly small steps I could not doubt, and I hoped to find there human memories which the painted corridor had failed to give. The frescoes had pictured unbelievable cities, hills, and valleys in this lower realm, and my fancy dwelt on the rich and colossal ruins that awaited me. My fears, indeed, concerned the past rather than the future. Not even the physical horror of my position in that cramped corridor of dead reptiles and antediluvian frescoes, miles below the world I knew and faced by another world of eerie light and mist, could match the lethal dread I felt at the abysmal antiquity of the scene in its soul. An ancientness so vast that the measurement is feeble seemed to leer down from the primal stones and rock-hewn temples of the nameless city, while the very last of the astounding maps in the frescoes shewed oceans and continents that man has forgotten, with only here and there some vaguely familiar outline. Of what could have happened in the geological aeon since the painting ceased and the death-hating race resentfully succumbed to decay, no man might say. Life had once teemed in these caverns and in the luminous realm beyond. Now I was alone with vivid relics, and I trembled to think of the countless ages through which these relics had kept a silent and deserted vigil. Suddenly, there came another burst of that acute fear which had intermittently seized me ever since I saw the terrible valley and the nameless city under a cold moon. And despite my exhaustion, I found myself starting frantically to a sitting posture and gazing back along the black corridor towards the tunnels that rose to the outer world. My sensations were much like those which had made me shun the nameless city at night, and were as inexplicable as they were poignant. In another moment, however, I received a still greater shock in the form of a definite sound, the first which had broken the utter silence of these tomb-like depths. It was a deep, low moaning, as of a distant throng of condemned spirits, and came from the direction in which I was staring. Its volume rapidly grew till it reverberated frightfully through the low passage, and at the same time I became conscious of an increasing draught of cold air, likewise flowing from the tunnels in the city above. The touch of this air seemed to restore my balance, for I instantly recalled the sudden gust which had risen around the mouth of the abyss, each sunrise and sunset, one of which had indeed served to reveal the hidden tunnels to me. I looked at my watch and saw that sunrise was near, so braced myself to resist the gale, which was sweeping down its cavern home as it had swept forth that evening. My fear again waned low, since a natural phenomenon tends to dispel broodings over the unknown. More and more madly poured the shrieking, moaning night wind into that gulf of the inner earth. I dropped prone again and clutched vainly at the floor, for fear of being swept bodily through the open gate into the phosphorescent abyss. Such fury I had not expected, and as I grew aware of an actual slipping of my form towards the abyss, I was beset by 1,000 new terrors of apprehension and imagination. The malignancy of the blast awakened incredible fancies. Once more I compared myself shudderingly to the only other human image in that frightful corridor, the man who was torn to pieces by the nameless race. For in the fiendish clawing of the swirling currents there seemed to abide a vindicative rage, all stronger because it was largely impotent. I think I screamed frantically near the last. I was almost mad. But if I did so, my cries were lost in the hell-born babble of the howling wind wraiths. I tried to crawl against the murderous, invisible torrent, but I could not even hold my own as I was pushed slowly and inexorably towards the unknown world. Finally, reason must have wholly snapped, for I fell to babbling over and over that unexplained couplet of the mad air of Alhazred, who dreamed of the nameless city. That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die. Only the grim, brooding desert gods know what really took place, what indescribable struggles and scrambles in the dark I endured, or what Abaddon guided me back to life, where I must always remember and shiver in the night wind till oblivion, or worse, claims me. Monstrous, unnatural, colossal was the thing, too far beyond all the ideas of man to be believed except in the silent, damnable hours when one cannot sleep. I have said that the fury of the rushing blast was infernal, cacodemonical, and that its voices were hideous with the pent-up viciousness of desolate eternities. Presently, those voices, while still chaotic before me, seemed to my beating brain to take articulate form behind me, and down there in the grave of unnumbered eon-dead antiquities, leagues below the dawn-lit world of men. I heard the ghastly cursing and snarling of strange-tongued fiends. Turning, I saw outlined against the luminous aether of the abyss what could not be seen against the dusk of the corridor. A nightmare horde of rushing devils, hate distorted, grotesquely panoplied, half-transparent. Devils of a race no man might mistake, the crawling reptiles of the nameless city. And as the wind died away, I was plunged into the ghoul-peopled blackness of earth's bowels. For behind the last of the creatures, the great brazen door clanged shut, with a deafening peal of metallic music, whose reverberations swelled out to the distant world to hail the rising sun, as Memnon hails it, from the banks of the Nile. So that's the story. That's the end of The Nameless City. And with me, this is the best example of cosmic horror in Lovecraft's work. And for me, the point of cosmic horror is not the action going on that makes it scary, it's the atmosphere, it's the environment. The point of cosmic horror is it's a kind of primal intellectual horror, right? It's the idea that is so well shown in the story that you don't matter. Your race's existence is inconsequential. Those that came before you and those that will come after you are greater. They operate on a level and a frequency you can't comprehend. All that you are, collectively, can be wiped away in an instant by a whim or an accident of a higher race or being. The fact that you exist at all is due to your being beneath the notice of these great ones. Just as we don't care what an ant thinks or what it has to say, even the greatest of anthills exist for only a fragment of time to our reckoning, and we may just destroy them to make our lawn look better. I would summarize it as not fear of the unknown, but rather, as the narrator has, awareness of the incomprehensible. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. So if you liked it, tell me in the comments what you think about cosmic horror. What did you think about the story, about the reptilian race beneath the sands of Arabia? It was extremely disturbing to me, the idea that they could just be there for so long, that they have this kind of life-death cycle where they never truly die. The idea of them being half-transparent, as in they were sort of resurrecting beneath the sands, they were coming back to the world. Also, there's the very famous quote of that, that which can live may never die, and with strange eons even death might die. That's quoted a lot in Cthulhu stuff, but as we now know, it comes from this story. It's in reference to the priests of the reptilian race, that they actually don't die. They just kind of go into a suspended animation. And as you might get if you're a Warhammer Fantasy fan, this story was the major inspiration for the Lizardmen, in particular the Slan priests, Lord Croak, Mazdamundi. These priests of the lizards that just live for thousands of years, they go into a sort of sleep, a sort of torpor, then they reanimate into the next cycle. They forever lie and they do not die. They just pass the eons in that way, and that's a very interesting idea to me. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.